Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome to my channel. So today I thought I'd show you something different for the midweek readings. I was talking about a method of divinations that are different from tarot with a friend of mine the other day, and specifically we were talking about the Book of Destiny and what we call La Nuova Cartomanzia, which is an Italian kind of system, and it's called the Corti d'Amore, so the love courts. And she said, why don't you show that on a video, because it's actually very interesting. And I think that it's not necessarily something that it's well known, let's say, because, well, first of all, because of the limited availability of these decks, because I think that the Book of Destiny by Grimaud is now out of print, unfortunately. And this is not out of print. The court cards, the love cards are not out of print, but I'm not sure that they're actually quite popular, let's say even in Italy. And so I did have a couple of subscribers that you reached out for free readings, and I went back to them. I said, how do you feel, you know, if I were to read with these cards? And they were gracious enough to agree for me to use these two decks for the divination. And then there's just a normal 3 cards pool with the Inkwitch tarot deck. That would be the third reading. And the fourth reading was a person that she said that she was preferring to have a let's say a wider spread, so she opted for a 9 cards pool, and so she was happy to pay for that. So we only have 3 readings today, 2 of which are going to be done with these 2 decks, and it's going to be quite, I hope it's going to be interesting. I've never seen anyone on YouTube using these 2 decks, although because I did search for it with a few keywords, but sometimes, you know, you don't input the right keywords. So there might be people using these decks on YouTube, but I haven't found them. But let's have a look. So first and foremost, we start with the Book of Destiny, which was actually published by Grimaud in France. Now, so the original title would have been in French, Le Livre du Destin. I believe that this deck is not in print anymore. As I was saying before, this deck, by the way, is the quality of this product is amazing. It does remind me a lot of the original cardstock from US games from the 80s. So it does have that kind of buttery feel to it that I really, really like. So there's several ways in which to use this deck. It's also one of the decks that you can use as a, you know, as a set of playing cards. As a matter of fact, I think that a lot of people actually use this deck for the game of patience, or a game of patience. I use it for divination in a bit of a similar way to the answer deck, in the sense that we've got a lot of archetypes, we've got a lot of categories that you can find in these cards, and we do have a lot of core cards, for example, and core cards always point to people, but they can also point to an archetype or a situation. And it's kind of a fun way to read or to do some form of divination. Now, as I was saying before, there's one of the subscribers that accepted to, you know, for me to read this this deck for her. She doesn't have a specific question, which is good, because one thing that, for example, the answer deck, so if you remember the smaller one with the kind of a red, black and white cards, can only be used, or mostly be used, for very specific questions, because it does tend to give you very specific answers. This one, instead, on the other hand, feels like it's a lot better when you just use it for a very quick pull, and it does give you an idea of something that, you know, a divination for the foreseeable future. Now, I have pre-shuffled this deck off camera, and just another quick one, and then I will cut it. So as I was saying, there's a lot of ways to read this. One very complicated way is called 7 to 7, in which you go through the deck choosing 3 cards at a time. You pick the highest one, and then you end up with, because the 33 cards, you make sure to end up with an uneven number. And then you use the remaining cards, you lay them down and you read the 7th card, you count them and you read the sentence, always reading the 7th card in the order until you finish reading all the cards, and then you form a sentence, quite a complex sentence out of that. In this case, we're not going to do that because it would take it takes quite a while to do that kind of reading, but it is as complex as if you do read Lenormand, for example. You will think about a very similar way to read a Grand Tableau. It takes that amount of time, but let's do the usual 3 cards pull with this one. Okay. It's a very beautiful deck, by the way. Okay, now what we can see at the moment is, as I was saying before, there's a lot of references to archetypes, and the references are not random though, because you will see that there's always a bit of a let's say a resonance between the way in which we will see for example, the elements on the RWS and the suit and the courts as well. So in this case, we've got a widower and the love letter and the hope. Now, this is telling me that there's a situation in which, so this is one way of reading the cards, is actually starting from the one on the left and then proceeding with the one in the center and one in the right. Normally, I would generally start from the one in the center, as you've seen me doing that before. But because this is a very special deck, this is the way that I'm going to read it. So we start with a situation in which someone is not necessarily a widower, but it is the stereotype of, or the archetype, sorry, about the person that has been separated. So there's a separation. It might also be someone who's been through a mournful separation. So someone who's actually lost someone they love, in specific, in this case, a wife. But what I do read it, the way in do I read it, is to recognize this sense of separation, this sense of something that has ended, and the remaining of this person as a single person, so as a person on their own, whereas before that there was a union, a couple, a partnership, etc. So we start from a situation in which the person is on their own. We arrive in a situation in which we're receiving some kind of news, and the news could be, it does say love letter. This to me, if we read it specifically with the intention of focusing on a romantic relationship, of course, this could be a person that is single at present and is going to receive an invitation for, for a union, for a partnership, something that will give hope, obviously, to this person, something that contains the germination, the first little buds of hope that will see something change in the immediate future for this person. So as you can see, it's a very quick kind of reading. It's a very fluent kind of reading. This is determined by the fact that we don't have a lot of symbology. As a matter of fact, this deck is specific as it reminds me a bit of the Pagan Other Worlds tarot deck in a way, because there's a lot of white space on the upper part of the card, and just because of that, but this also derives from the fact that there's, as I said, not a lot of symbology. Obviously, when you do see in the archetype of a person, you will see a person. And in the love letter, you will see specifically a letter. But what I mean with that is that the deck itself doesn't really, is not very conducive of some kind of intuitive reading. You need to really be sticking to the facts, sticking to the keywords, sticking to the representation that is shown by the card. So whenever it tells you that there's a widower, of course you can read it as an archetype, as I did. So someone has lived through a separation or the ending of a partnership. but you don't read a lot from the other symbols in the card, because they're not meant to be read as symbols. So even if there is some kind of water over there, you don't necessarily link it to the element of water, so the emotions and the feelings and so on and so forth. When it tells you there's a love letter, it definitely needs to be taken as some kind of message or news coming your way that will eventually refer back to your situation. That will, be related to the fact that you have been through a separation. So there will be some kind of a news coming your way related to that, and this news will give you hope. So this is kind of it's very interesting, because the person that has been requesting or agreeing to this kind of reading, when I go back to them, they did say that they were hoping for some kind of message referred back to a romantic relationship. So I definitely see this happening. So we start from a separation, we receive some news in regards to that. These are news related to this romantic relation that has been ended. And this will definitely give us a bit of hope in relation to that. So this is the way in which I read this deck for a quick pull. And as I said before, there's many other ways of reading that, but they will take a lot more time. In specific for this person, I definitely say that this is good news, because as we've seen it, hope in a reading is always good news. It's not necessarily the certainty that you want, in the sense that hope sometimes, unfortunately, things don't go the way you want them to go. However, having hope is always a good sign, and the fact that it follows an announcement or some news, it's always a good sign as well, because these are positive news, obviously. So all the best. So the second reading I'm going to do today with this very special deck, it's called La Nuova Cartomancia by Modiano, and these are the love cards, let's say, the love cards. This deck is very special because this is also a rather old publication. I actually had a look and I couldn't really find the year in which it has been published, also because there's not necessarily a guidebook. It's just this, as you can see, very small kind of indication, booklet or leaflet. This is a very interesting deck because one way of reading it is very similar to what I was explaining before, the 7 to 7 of the Book of Destiny. So this one has the same kind of setup, but you can also read it in 12 different smaller kind of piles, and those 12 piles will correspond to the 12 astrological houses. So that's how you will interpret, going to the essence of a very specific house, you will have the association of one of the cards. Another way of reading it is also reading the auras. So the auras are always related back to the elements of the 4 elements of fire, water, earth and air, and associated with the very same way in which we associate the suits on the RWS system. So we've got a couple of ways of reading this deck. One way that I'm going to choose today is, as I did before, the 3 cards pull, which is very it's also a very quick one. First of all, I need to remove all the consultant cards. As you can tell, it's a rather more complex kind of deck, in the sense that it's got a lot of symbols. It does not only have, the representation of the card in the middle, it's got a lot of keywords, and it also refers back to the playing card, basically, because it's the setup is the same as a poker game. And it does have some numerological importance as well. And I think we're almost done. There you go. So we're just gonna give it a shuffle. Okay, now we're going to pick 3 cards. Okay. let me see if I can actually zoom in. Okay, let's see what we've got. So as you can see, this is a very quick kind of reading. It's also a very sequential kind of reading. For the same reason, I will not start from the center card, but I will start from the first card on the left, and then I will proceed reading the meaning of the second and the third. It will read like a sentence. It's quite in the same way as we've seen it in the Book of Destiny. And that's the way in which these cards, these decks are meant to be read. I don't know if you've ever seen anyone reading with these decks, but they're very quick in drawing the cards and reading, and each and every card is basically not necessarily, let's say, conducive of an entire sentence, but most of the time you will see people reading them as one keyword. So basically we see in the past, so that this card is called actually the past. We see money in the past, and this will bring to a trip in the present. This tells me that there has been some kind of an investment that you need to do in the past. You need to embark upon a journey that actually takes you, you know, thanks to the fact that you have been investing in that. In the present, you've got this kind of major kind of trip, or also the journey, the fact that there's a transformation on the cards. There's some kind of a combination. So combinazione in Italian is not necessarily just referred to a combination of two things. It could be also an happening. So a combination is a fact that is actually happening. So the investment that you've taken a part of has produced a journey, has taken you into a journey, and definitely something that has a very positive outcome, because you got the card of joy and ambition. And this means to me like that we're looking into a career kind of reading. This is a project that you've embarked upon. You had to invest yourself, but probably also in a financial investment that has you at present busy with some kind of a movement. So it's a journey, but it's also this kind of transformation, or it's a kind of a happening, and you will eventually get something out of it that will make you happy, something that, you know, if you're seeking these kind of things and you're investing for it, you have to work hard for it, but you are doing it right now and you will succeed. So this is the kind of reading that you get whenever you use these kind of decks. It's very similar to reading to the answer deck, in the sense that it's a very quick, very on point kind of reading. But it's a very fun one to do as well whenever you just want to do a very quick kind of pull. Best of luck. So the third reading is a lot more traditional. So this person hasn't requested for a specific deck, but they want to know something related to their career. And for what I understand, this person is doing a lot of work with the chakras. And I really have this really strong impression that the Inkwitch Tarot deck by Eric Mile is a deck that is very conducive to a work on the root chakra. And I think that there's a lot that can be said about grounding. I really like this deck. It's one of the decks that I actually take with me whenever I go traveling, because it's a very versatile deck that, generally speaking, I notice that people tend to like this deck. So whenever I'm reading for, travel companions, for example, or people that I meet during my travels, they're always quite happy to see this deck, to have a look at it. And it also gives you the opportunity to give very balanced kind of readings, because I do believe that even though it does have some kind of earthy tones to it, it is actually, when we look at elemental energies, it's actually a very balanced kind of deck. But let's just focus on the shuffling. Okay. Okay, now what we'll see, let's have a look at the cards. So as I was saying before, this person didn't specifically, so they want to know something related to their career. And what have we got? Okay, now I'm pleased to say that, as I was mentioning before, this is a very balanced kind of deck. And I'm pleased to say that out of 3 cards, we have 3 different suits, which gives us the possibility to see the balancing of 3 different elements, because we got earth, we got air, and we got water. So we're missing fire, but I'm happy to see that, you know, we've got something related to air, and earth, because obviously when I look at a career themed kind of reading, I do want to see the element of earth, because that's something that relates always to the financial aspects of the project aspect of the reading. In this case in specific, though, what I can see is that it feels like the person is, the archetype of the Page of Pentacles is the naturalist, where the naturalist in this case can also mean the person that is always going back to nature, that really appreciates the contact with nature, that understands the value of nature. But also, because we are looking at the career oriented kind of reading, in this case to me, I will not read it as the naturalist, as the archetype. I will read it as the person who has actually started something. Okay, it's the apprentice, it's the person that is really new at something, and it's a financial, it could be in a career in the financial area, but it's something that in any case it's more referred to the fact that they have just started this new journey. And it's a journey that will definitely open up a lot of possibilities. As we know, you know, the pages are the very first one in the court cards, therefore the journey is just very let's say basic for now. It's a good card to start with, because we don't want to end up on a novice card. We need to start with that kind of energy, not end with it. What I do see is that in the card that to me symbolizes the present, the current situation, you do have a lot of anxiety. You did not specifically tell me that, but it was something that I could actually pick up on, the way in which you were explaining to me the reason why you wanted let's say a career-centered reading. I have this impression that there's a lot of thinking. You do come across as someone very intelligent, someone who's probably worried a lot. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that you should not be worrying so much, because what I can tell you is this: most of the time when the 9 of Swords, so the anxiety card, comes in a present situation, what I always look at is the cards that surround it, and these are very positive card, very positive card. This tells me that you are for sure concerned about your present situation, because you come from the fact that you are the last one in. You're probably someone who's not gained a lot of, let's say, confidence yet, but also because amongst all of your colleagues, you probably feel like you're left out, because you don't necessarily know all of the things that are going on in the background yet. So obviously you need to do your journey. You need to, you know, you need to gain your experience. There's no two ways around that. It's something that the world works in a very special way. And whenever you do start something, of course, you do not have at your disposal, you don't have available every single tool, wisdom and experience and expertise that you do have at the end of your journey. You're at the start of your journey, so don't expect to be always involved in everything. That's probably where your anxiety is coming from, or that's how I feel, in the sense that you probably see that other colleagues do not count on you, as much as you would love to, or as much as they do count on other colleagues, and you feel left out, and you worry that that is actually reflecting on their opinion on you. And I can assure you that is not the case. It's simply in the fact that you cannot be called upon to do the same things that a senior may be called upon to do. You understand that, of course, and you will do the same. Whenever you're looking for someone to carry out a job, you probably look at experience. I know that starting out is very difficult because at the beginning you probably feel like you can do more, but you don't need to have these kind of thoughts wake you up in the middle of the night and actually stop you from being the best version of yourself. Okay, so don't let it drag you down, the fact that you're probably not involved as much as you would love to. It will come, it will be there, it will get to you, it will come to you in the future. And the reason why I'm 100% certain of that is because you have a Ten of Cups in your future, which is one of the most beautiful, one of the most positive cards. It's also a card that points out to a community. It points out not just to a union, but this is actually a community. So if we're doing this reading in the work environment, obviously this is your office if you work in an office, this is your organization if you work in an organization, this is your team, and it's a very cohesive kind of team. There is a lot of unity here, there's a lot of support that you're going to receive, and you're also going to be asked to do your thing. You're going to be trusted with responsibility once that you overcome the anxiety that you're going through, that you're feeling right now, because you're just starting. Don't let it drag you down. That's a very important thing for you to understand. This is not necessary for you. It's not the kind of worry that prepares you to face something horrible to come. There won't be anything horrible to come. It's just that right now you're not an expert yet. You don't have the expertise, so you will reach that stage, but it will take time. So don't worry, just keep on doing whatever you're doing, which is the right thing, and you will get to that sense of community that you're after. Best of luck. So thank you so much everyone for staying with me until the end of this video. Next week there's going to be a very special video, so I won't be doing any subscribers reading because it's kind of a bit of an anniversary for my channel. So I will post a video about the last 6 months. So my channel is kind of a baby channel because I just started 6 months ago. But I am so happy about all of my subscribers and the level of commitment and the level of communications that there is, and the fact that I started the channel because I really wanted to reach out to the tarot community, and I'm so very happy to see that there was such a lovely response back. So thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. More to come. Have a great day.